Hey everyone, Scott here, better known as Narebo, and nope, I'm not wasting any time with the Southwest Airlines 737-800 illustration. I've got my 737-800 template here that I created. By the way, if you want that, just go over to my website, norebo.com. You can get the free version of this, the low-resolution version, JPEG, for free. All you have to do is just go and grab it and do what you want with it. But anyway, today I am drawing a Southwest Airlines livery on top of that template. This is the latest livery, and it's actually quite nice. I guess I didn't really appreciate it until I started doing this illustration, but anyway, once I did it, I was happy that I did, because now I can appreciate this livery so much more. But anyway, I am in Adobe Illustrator, and I am just drawing out the rough shape of those swoops that go on the back half of the aircraft from the vertical stabilizer on down into the fuselage, and just trying to eyeball it. Again, I mean, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I try not to trace things as much as I can, or I try to avoid it, just simply because I don't really think that it'd be possible to find a photo that could exactly match the perspective of my templates, which are exactly 100% side-on. And even if you get a perfectly side-on photo, it's not going to be exactly 100% side-on. So anyway, that's why I just eyeball things on my own. My templates are a little bit different than the photos. Every photo is different. Nothing's going to match up. So it's okay to be a little bit rough and loose. And again, you know, this is artwork. It's hand-created artwork after all, and you don't have to be 100% perfect. I mean, it's not like I'm creating an actual livery. That's going to be part of the process of creating the cuts and the molds and the templates for creating the actual livery on the actual aircraft. So it's not important. But anyway, now that I've got those swoops created in Adobe Illustrator, I've moved over to Adobe Photoshop. All I did is I just copied and pasted those directly into Photoshop as vector smart objects. And yeah, I'm just placing them over top of the template there and just trying to match what I see in the photo. And I think I've got it pretty much right the first time, which, to be honest, it doesn't always happen that way. I think if my memory serves correctly, I'm going to have to go back and make a few adjustments to those swoops, but I think I nailed it the first time, which is always a good feeling. Anyway, since most of this fuselage is that deep canyon blue, or I think that's what it's called, just call it blue because I'm not really sure, but since it's mostly blue, I filled the entire fuselage in that color, and then what I plan on doing is just trimming away the colored sections. So if you see what I did there in Adobe Illustrator, I just created the lines for those swoops. I didn't create the actual solid colors because it's much easier to subtract things and take away elements from something. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. We all have our own processes and techniques for working fast in Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever drawing program that you use. I mean, we all do things a little bit differently. But for me, I like to start with something solid and then just trim away all of the excess. And that's essentially what I'm doing by painting or adding color to the entire fuselage, and then I'm just trimming away the negative spaces using those vector objects that I created as a guide. So it doesn't always work that way. Certain liveries, you can't do it that way. Like the JetBlue Streamers livery that I just created a couple weeks ago, that didn't work so well. I had to manually create every little swoop and cut. But this Southwest livery is easy enough that it was okay to go in and just trim away what I didn't need out of a solid chunk of blue. So I love this livery. It's just so bold and bright, and like I said, I didn't really appreciate it until I actually looked at it closely to create this illustration in a day and age when most airline liveries are all white, and the only splash of color that you can see is on the tail or the vertical stabilizer or maybe even the engines. Southwest kind of went against the grain and they did things their way, and they painted the entire aircraft. There's not a section of the entire aircraft that isn't painted, which I think is totally awesome. It's such a rare thing these days. And yeah, that's looking really good. And one of the other things that I really like about doing a solid livery like this, meaning where there's no white and it's just solid color, is that when you get into the end and you get into the details, it's so much more impressive when you add those highlights and the gloss, because it just pops so much more. What you're going to see right at the end of this illustration, at the end of this video, you can even skip ahead if you want, but it's just, you just add that gloss and the whole thing just sings, and it's just awesome. So yeah, I'm working on the little winglet here, and from what I could tell in the reference photos, it was just basically a version of the vertical stabilizer graphic, how it starts in the vertical stabilizer, then cuts right down into the fuselage. It's a little bit modified, and again, I couldn't tell if it was actually modified because the perspective of the photo, it's weird and it's not 100% side-on. So basically what I did is I just took the graphic that I created from the vertical stabilizer. I just grouped all that together, made a copy of it, and then dumped that onto the winglet, and then just kind of skewed it and distorted it a bit just to get it to fit, just to make it look like the photo as much as I could. It may not be 100% perfect, but that's okay. Again, that's my motto. If you've seen any of my other videos, I'm not about 100% total perfection, because if I was, I would be spending months on single illustrations and I wouldn't get anything done. I don't like being like that. I like to move fast, and if I can just get it close, that's all that I really need. So working on the registration now, and looking like DIN, or I think maybe Eurostyle is the font. No, it's DIN. No, Eurostyle. I think. Helvetica. Yeah. Usually when it comes to registrations on aircraft illustrations, it's either DIN, Eurostyle, or Helvetica. Sometimes it's Arial, but it's, for the most part, the airlines don't get entirely creative with that kind of thing, which is okay. I mean, because it needs to be read fast, and if you have a fancy font, then it just gets difficult. So there's a lot of airlines that actually use custom proprietary fonts for that registration. So in this case, it was Helvetica, so that worked out pretty well. And what have I got going on here? As you can see in the layers palette there, the layers in my templates, every object is on a separate layer, and which makes doing these illustrations so much easier, because you can just eliminate the objects that you're not focused on, and you can grab the elements only the elements that you need to create the graphics and the colors and the whatever details that you're creating. So yeah, if you want my high resolution PSD templates at 50% off, even the vector templates, there's a link in the description below. Sign up for the Norebo discount club. You'll get 50% off your very first order, no matter how many templates you order. Whether you order 1 or you order 50, you're going to get 50% off the entire order, your entire first order. So do check that out if you're interested. So this Southwest graphic is something that I believe, for the sake of this illustration, I just got off of Google. Normally, you know me, I like to create all of the elements from scratch as much as I can, but I was actually in a hurry to create this illustration because I needed it for something else, so I just went to Google and I found a vector version of the Southwest logo, and I just dumped it onto this, and sometimes that's okay. The only caveat to that, or the only downside, is that I can't use this illustration for commercial purposes, meaning I can't sell it, I can't do anything with it, because it's that Southwest, or those Southwest titles, I didn't create those, and it's not my artwork, so therefore I can't sell this particular Southwest Airlines illustration. So that's just something you got to keep in mind when you create these illustrations. If you want to protect yourself and you want to make sure that you're not going to get dinged for copyright issues or anything, you really need to make sure that you create all of the graphic elements yourself. I mean, even it comes right down to the logos, the titles, everything yourself. You don't want to be using other people's images and graphics if you're actually going to be using these illustrations for commercial purposes. So anyway, yep, here we go into the fun part that I was talking about earlier, adding the gloss. And as you can see, when you add that gloss to a dark fuselage like this over a dark paint color, it's just awesome. It just completely transforms the entire illustration. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it's just awesome how a small little detail like that can completely transform an illustration and turn it from something mediocre into something just amazing and something that looks awesome when posted to social media or anything like that. Anyway, so yeah, there you go. There's the illustration. Like I said, this is a livery that I didn't really appreciate as much as I did until I created this. I'm glad I did it. It's a beautiful livery. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions specifically as to how I did this or how I did a certain element or whatever, do let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll be happy to respond as soon as I can. I'm usually pretty responsive. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.